The wind sweeps gently across the Heartland ranch, carrying with it the echoes of memories long buried. The sun sets in soft gold behind the barn, but for Amy Fleming, the world still feels dim. Somewhere between the whinny of the horses and the quiet rustle of the prairie grass, she feels him, a presence she thought she lost forever. Ty Borden. The name itself feels like a heartbeat returning to life. It's been years since tragedy took him away, but in this season, something extraordinary is stirring at Heartland, something that whispers that love, even when broken, can find its way back home. Amy walks through the stable, her hands brushing against the wooden stalls that once held the laughter and life she shared with Ty. The scent of hay and leather fills the air, the same as it always has, but something inside her feels missing, like a melody that has lost its tune. She pauses by Spartan, her loyal horse, who nudges her hand as if he, too, remembers the man who used to stand beside her. Every sound, every corner of this ranch tells the story of a love that was as wild and free as the horses they trained together. Heartland has seen storms before, fires, losses, heartbreak, but this one left a scar deeper than any other. When Ty died, the ranch changed, and so did Amy. She tried to stay strong, raising her daughter, working with the horses, keeping the family together. Yet, no matter how hard she tried, there were moments when the silence became too heavy, when she'd look toward the mountains and wish for one more ride, one more day with him. People told her time would heal everything, but Amy learned that time doesn't erase love, it only teaches you how to carry it differently. There were days she smiled, laughed even, but deep inside, there was a hollow ache that never truly faded. Some nights, she'd wake up to dreams so vivid it felt like Ty was right there, his voice soft and calm, telling her to keep going. Those dreams became her comfort and her curse. Because when morning came, the emptiness returned like a shadow she couldn't shake. In season 19, that emptiness begins to change. Amy starts to feel something, a shift in the air, an energy that feels familiar. The horses react differently around her, their eyes following something unseen. When she works in the fields, she sometimes catches the faint smell of Ty's old jacket, or hears the faint rhythm of his boots on the barn floor. At first, she tells herself it's just memory playing tricks, her heart clinging to what it lost. But deep down, something inside her whispers that maybe, just maybe, Ty isn't as far away as she thought. It's not just Amy who senses the change. Jack, always the anchor of Heartland, notices the light returning to her eyes, a spark he hasn't seen in years. He doesn't say much, but his knowing look says it all. Grief can break you, but love can find its way back, even through the cracks. The family sees Amy starting to heal, but what they don't know is that her healing is tied to something beyond understanding. The ranch itself feels alive again. The sunsets seem warmer, the mornings brighter. It's as if Heartland knows a secret the rest of them haven't yet discovered. Amy doesn't realize it, but she's standing at the edge of something miraculous, a moment that will change her life forever. The moment when love defies the boundaries of loss, and Ty Borden, in one form or another, finds his way back home. Something strange begins to stir in Heartland, quiet at first, almost like the earth holding its breath. It starts with little things, the kind that make Amy stop and wonder if she's just tired or if something else is happening. One morning, she finds Spartan standing still at the edge of the pasture, his ears perked toward the horizon. There's nothing there, only the open sky and rolling hills. But his eyes follow something invisible. Amy walks closer, brushing her hand through his mane, and for a fleeting second, she feels it, warmth. Not sunlight, not wind, but something that feels alive. It's gone as quickly as it came, leaving her standing in silence with her heart racing. That night, Amy can't sleep. The walls of the farmhouse seem to hum with a quiet energy. The ticking of the old clock sounds louder than usual, the kind of sound that fills the silence when the world feels too still. She walks outside, barefoot, her sweater wrapped tightly around her shoulders. The air is cold, crisp, but it carries something she hasn't felt in years, comfort. She looks up at the stars, the same stars she and Ty used to watch after long days in the barn, and whispers, "I miss you." Her voice trembles, carried by the wind. Then, a faint flicker of the porch light catches her eye. It blinks twice, just like the night Ty proposed, one flash, then another. Coincidence, maybe, but her chest heightens as tears rise unbidden. The night feels alive, like it's listening. The next morning, Amy finds an old photograph lying on the porch steps, one she doesn't remember putting there. It's weathered and faded, showing her and Ty laughing by the river, mud on their faces, their hands locked together. She picks it up carefully, feeling a shiver run down her spine. It smells faintly like pine and leather, just like Ty's jacket used to. She looks around, but no one's there. Not Jack, not Lisa, not Lindy. The ranch is quiet, too quiet. She takes a deep breath, trying to convince herself that maybe she dropped it days ago. Maybe the wine carried it here. But deep inside, she knows that's not true. Something or someone brought it back to her. Over the next few days, the signs grow stronger. Amy begins hearing soft footsteps outside the barn when she's alone. Once, she even hears the sound of a man's voice humming a familiar tune, a lullaby Ty used to sing to Lindy. The horses react too. They grow restless, neighing softly into the darkness, but not out of fear. It's as if they recognize the presence before she does. And then, one afternoon, while fixing a broken fence, Amy sees him, just for a second. A figure standing at the edge of the trees, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a jacket that looks like Ty's. The sunlight makes it hard to see clearly, and when she blinks, he's gone. But her hands tremble, her knees weaken, and tears fill her eyes. She knows what she saw. Jack notices the change in her again. At breakfast, he asks gently, "You've been quiet lately. You all right, Amy?" She smiles faintly, but her voice wavers when she says, "Yeah, just thinking about him." Jack looks at her for a long moment, then says, "Maybe thinking's not all you're doing." Amy doesn't reply, but his words linger. That night, she dreams again, vivid and warm. Ty stands in the barn, leaning against the stall door, smiling that soft, calm smile she's missed so much. "You're doing fine, Amos," he says. "Just keep your heart open." She reaches out to touch him, but her hand meets nothing but air. She wakes up crying, whispering his name into the darkness. From that moment, Amy stops questioning the strange happenings. She begins to believe that maybe love has found a way to reach her again. She starts talking to Ty out loud when she works. Just small things. "You'd laugh at this, wouldn't you?" Or "Remember when Spartan kicked the bucket over?" And every time she does, a soft breeze brushes her face, almost like a reply. It doesn't scare her anymore. It feels right. The ranch, too, seems to respond to her healing. The horses come more easily, the foals are stronger, and Amy feels lighter. She realizes that maybe Ty isn't returning to change her world. Maybe he's returning to remind her that she's strong enough to live it. Every whisper of wind, every flicker of light, every breath of peace becomes his voice guiding her forward. She doesn't need proof or explanation. In her heart, she knows some bonds don't end with goodbye. And so, in the quiet of Heartland's evenings, when the sky turns orange and the fields hum with life, Amy stands at the fence, watching the horizon where she once saw him. She smiles through her tears and whispers, "Thank you for finding your way back to me." The wind answers softly, wrapping around her like an embrace. For the first time in years, Amy feels whole, not because she's forgotten the pain, but because she's finally learning to live with love that never truly left. The morning breaks with an unusual calm. The sky glows a soft amber, and the air feels charged, as if the world itself knows something sacred is about to happen. Amy wakes early, long before the others, drawn outside by a quiet pull she can't explain. The ranch lies still, no footsteps, no creaking gates, just the whisper of wind brushing across the open field. She feels it again, that warmth from before, wrapping around her like an invisible hand guiding her forward. Spartan waits by the fence, ears flicking, eyes focused on the far pasture. Amy takes a deep breath and walks toward him, her heart pounding faster with every step. The field stretches endlessly ahead, bathed in morning light. And then she sees it, a figure standing near the old oak tree by the river, right where she and Ty carved their initials years ago. Her breath catches in her throat. For a moment, she can't move, afraid that if she blinks, he'll disappear. The man stands still, his back toward her, shoulders broad, familiar. She whispers his name, barely audible, Ty. The sound of it breaks her own heart, but the figure turns. And there he is, Ty Borden. Not a dream, not a shadow, but something more. His eyes, soft and steady, meet hers, and the world seems to stop moving. Amy's mind floods with memories. The day they met, their wedding, the laughter, the heartbreak. It's all there in a single heartbeat. Her knees weaken, tears spill freely, and she runs toward him, her voice trembling with disbelief. How is this possible? Ty smiles that quiet, knowing smile, the one that always made her feel safe. You called me, he says simply, his voice echoing like a memory wrapped in warmth. And I never stopped listening. When she reaches him, she hesitates, afraid that if she touches him, he'll vanish like a dream. But when her hand brushes his arm, it feels real, warm, steady, alive. A sob breaks from her chest as she falls into his embrace. The scent of pine, the feel of his jacket, the rhythm of his heartbeat, it's all there, as if time has folded itself to give them this one impossible moment. She doesn't know if he's truly returned, or if this is her heart healing itself through love, but it doesn't matter. In that instant, the world feels right again. Ty pulls back slightly, looking into her eyes. You've done good, Amos, he says softly. You've carried the love we built, and you've shared it with everyone here. That's what I always wanted for you, to live, to heal. She shakes her head, tears blurring her vision. But it's not the same without you, she whispers. He smiles again, a sad but peaceful smile. Maybe not. But love doesn't fade when someone's gone. It changes shape. I've been here the whole time, in the horses, in the wind, in your heart. You just had to be ready to feel it again. The world around them grows still, the light glowing brighter. The horses in the distance lift their heads, watching silently, as if they, too, understand the sacredness of this moment. Amy grips his hand tighter, afraid of losing him again. Please don't go, she pleads. Ty steps closer, brushing a tear from her cheek. I'm not leaving, he says. I'm just becoming part of everything you love. For a heartbeat, silence fills the air. Then, just as the sun rises above the mountains, Ty's form begins to fade into the golden light. Amy reaches out, her voice breaking, Ty. But instead of sorrow, she feels peace, a calm she hasn't known since the day he left. The warmth around her deepens, filling every corner of her heart, every space where grief once lived. She realizes that his return wasn't about bringing him back to life, but about bringing her back to herself. Amy stands there long after he's gone, her tears turning into a quiet smile. The wine shifts gently, carrying with it the faint echo of his laughter. She looks down at the ground where he stood, and there, nestled in the grass, lies something she hasn't seen in years, his old horse pendant, the one he used to wear. She picks it up, clutching it tightly to her chest, and whispers, I'll keep riding, Ty. I promise. The words hang softly in the air, answered by a sudden burst of sunlight breaking through the clouds. As she walks back toward the ranch, the world feels different. The colors seem brighter, the sounds richer. Jack meets her by the fence, eyes full of unspoken understanding. He doesn't ask where she's been or why her face is wet with tears. He just nods and says, feels like the ranch is breathing again. Amy smiles, her voice steady now. It is, she says. He's here. From that day forward, Amy no longer dreams of Ty as a ghost of her past. Instead, she feels him in every sunrise, in every gallop through the fields, in every heartbeat of the horses she heals. His love has become part of Heartland itself, not gone, not forgotten, but transformed into something eternal. And as the day fades into evening, Amy looks toward the horizon, where the sky burns orange and gold, and she knows love like theirs doesn't end. It only changes its way of coming home. Days pass after that morning by the river. Yet Amy still feels Ty's presence everywhere, not as a ghost haunting her memories, but as a quiet strength woven into her every breath. The world around her seems to hum differently now. The wind that once felt cold and lonely now carries warmth. The light that once faded to fast now lingers over the ranch, touching everything with a golden calm. Amy walks through Heartland with a new steadiness in her step. The ache inside her is still there, but it has softened like a wound that finally stopped bleeding. Every morning, she wakes before dawn and rides Spartan out to the open fields. The air is crisp, the sky a watercolor of soft pink and silver. She no longer rides to escape her thoughts, but to listen to them. The steady rhythm of Spartan's hooves becomes a heartbeat that syncs with her own. She feels Ty there, not beside her, but within her, guiding her hand, steadying her soul. The sorrow that once made her feel small now gives her depth. She realizes that healing isn't about forgetting or moving on. It's about learning to live with love in new shapes. At the barn, the horses seem to mirror her change. There's one in particular, a wild, frightened mare brought to Heartland weeks ago. No one has been able to get close to her. Amy watches from afar for a few days, noticing the fear in the horse's eyes. Something about her reminds Amy of herself, lost, guarded, unwilling to trust the world again. One morning, Amy decides to try. She walks slowly toward the mare, speaking softly, her voice steady but gentle. "It's okay," she whispers. "You don't have to fight anymore." The mare flinches, but doesn't run. Amy keeps talking, her words carrying the same calm tone Ty once used when helping her with frightened horses. Little by little, the mare lets her hand rest on its neck. For the first time in weeks, it exhales a long, trembling breath of surrender. Amy smiles through tears. "That's it," she whispers. "We're both learning again." As the days go on, Amy finds herself surrounded by small miracles. The horses respond more easily to her care. Lindy laughs louder when they're together, as if she too feels that something invisible has lifted from their lives. Jack watches quietly, knowing that Amy's strength has always come from love, and now, that love has deepened beyond the borders of life and death. When Lisa mentions how peaceful Amy seems lately, Amy just smiles and says, "I think I finally understand what Ty meant by home." Her healing becomes visible not only in her heart, but in her work. Word spreads across Hudson that Amy's touch seems different now, that the horses she trains carry a sense of calm and confidence rare even for Heartland. People start calling her methods the Heart Whisperer. Amy laughs at the name but knows what lies behind it. It isn't magic. It's love transformed into something alive, something that heals. Each time she reaches out to a horse, she feels Ty's presence guiding her hand, the same compassion he once taught her to give freely. But healing isn't a straight path. There are still nights when Amy sits by the fire, staring at Ty's old jacket draped across the chair. She still misses the sound of his laugh, the warmth of his touch. Sometimes she speaks to him softly, telling him about her day or about Lindy's progress at school. "You'd be proud of her," she whispers. "She's got your stubborn streak." The wind outside the window always seems to answer, a faint rustle, a soft sigh, and that's enough. She doesn't need to see him again to know he's near. One evening, Amy takes Lindy to the same oak tree by the river where everything changed. The child runs ahead, her laughter echoing across the fields. Amy kneels beside the carved initials VF plus TB and traces them gently with her fingertips. The wood has aged, the edges softened, but the mark remains strong. "You'll always be a part of this place," she murmurs. Lindy looks up at her mother and asks, "Do you still miss Daddy?" Amy smiles, her eyes glistening but calm. "Every day," she says. "But missing him doesn't make me sad anymore. It reminds me how lucky I was to love him." Lindy nods, leaning against her. And together they watch the sun dip behind the hills. In that quiet moment, Amy realizes that her healing is not an ending, it's a beginning. The grief that once defined her has become a bridge between what was and what still can be. She understands now that love doesn't stay frozen in time. It grows, changes, and carries us forward. Time may be gone from this world, but his love lives on in her strength, her kindness, and every life she touches at Heartland. As night falls, Amy walks back toward the ranch, hand in hand with Lindy. The lights from the barn glow softly, and the horses settle into the stillness of evening. She feels the wind brush her cheek again, familiar, gentle, almost like a whisper. It doesn't make her cry this time. Instead, she smiles, because now she knows what Ty's return truly meant. It wasn't a miracle to bring him back. It was a miracle to bring her back to life, back to hope, back to love. Heartland stands quiet under the stars, timeless and strong, a place where love endures and healing never ends. And somewhere in that peace, Amy feels Ty smiling, not from beyond, but from within her heart, where he's always been. The moon rises gently over Heartland, casting a silver glow across the open fields. The ranch is quiet now, resting after another long day. The horses shift softly in their stalls, the wind hums through the trees, and the world feels still, like it's holding a breath meant only for Amy. She stands by the paddock fence, her hands resting on the worn wood, eyes tracing the horizon. There's peace in her now, the kind that only comes after the storm has passed. The ache in her chest hasn't vanished, but it no longer hurts the same way. It's become something sacred, something beautiful, a reminder of how deeply she has loved and how far she has come. The air feels different tonight. The stars seem closer, brighter, like they're leaning down to listen. Amy closes her eyes and lets the night surround her. She thinks about Ty, the laughter they shared, the lessons he taught her, the way he always believed in her even when she doubted herself. She smiles softly. "You'd be happy, Ty," she whispers. "Heartland's still standing. The family's together. And I'm okay." For the first time, she truly means it. As she stands there, a soft breeze sweeps across the fields, lifting strands of her hair. The scent of pine and leather fills the air, his scent. She doesn't turn around, doesn't need to. She knows. The wine seems to speak, quiet but clear, carrying his voice through the night. "You always were." Her eyes fill with tears, but this time they're warm, not heavy. She laughs softly, the sound breaking the silence like a gentle bell. "I know," she says, looking up at the stars. "I just needed to feel it again." Inside the barn, Spartan stomps softly, sensing her calm. Amy walks in, brushing her hand along his mane. "We did it, boy," she murmurs. "We made it through." Spartan nudges her shoulder as if to say he knew they would all along. Amy looks around the barn. The same walls that once echoed with grief now glow with quiet life. The air feels lighter, the shadows softer. Even the silence feels comforting now, filled with echoes of laughter, footsteps, and love that time could never erase. The next morning, Heartland wakes to golden sunlight spilling across the valley. The ranch hums with life, Jack fixing a gate, Lisa tending the garden, Lindy chasing a foal across the yard. Amy stands by the porch, watching them all, her heart full. She knows Ty would have loved this, the simple, steady rhythm of family, the promise of another beautiful day. She takes a deep breath, the air sweet with hay and morning dew, and feels an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Not for what she lost, but for what she still has, love that continues to grow, even beyond goodbye. Later that day, Amy takes Lindy for a ride. The two of them gallop across the fields, the wind wild against their faces. Lindy's laughter rings through the air, bright and fearless. Amy can't help but laugh with her, the sound free and full of joy. For the first time in years, she feels that pure, unshaken happiness again, not a memory, but something real and alive. The past no longer feels like a weight. It feels like a foundation, something strong enough to build upon. As they slow near the river, Amy glances toward the old oak tree. The light filters through its branches, and for a split second, She swears she sees Ty standing there again, smiling, calm, proud. But instead of reaching for him, she just smiles back. She doesn't need him to stay. She only needs to know he's with her. And somehow she does. When they return to the ranch, the sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. Amy stands for a long time, watching the horizon, her heart steady and full. She whispers, almost to herself, "Some people never really leave us. They just find new ways to stay." The wind stirs gently, brushing against her cheek like a familiar touch. She smiles, her eyes glistening in the fading light dot as the final rays of sunlight disappear behind the hills. Amy walks back toward the barn. She pauses at the door, glancing around one last time. Everything feels alive, the fields, the trees, the animals. Heartland has always been more than just a place. It's a living story, stitched together by love, loss, and the courage to keep going. She turns off the barn light, leaving only the soft glow of the moon, and whispers into the stillness, "Thank you, Ty, for everything." Outside, the wind rises once more, not cold, not lonely, but warm and full of life. The stars shimmer above the ranch, and for a moment, it feels like the whole world is breathing with her. Amy closes her eyes and lets that peace sink in, knowing that Ty's love didn't vanish with time. It became the heartbeat of Heartland itself, constant, unbreakable, eternal. And as the night deepens, a single truth settles quietly in her soul: love never dies. It simply changes form, finding new ways to guide us home.